This is a video apology to all the things that I haven't done, and to all the other projects that I've dreamed about but haven't yet begun. It's a video I'm making because I'm getting fed up of waking up every day and seeing the progress bar on my life remain painfully static, the end of each day anticlimactic. Achieving very little and just waiting, stagnating close to where I was before, despite my head being full of ideas and visions that for one reason or another evade fruition. I've decided to write it down and speak it out loud as a reminder to myself and others that this invisible blanket of doubt and comfort that insidiously smothers the unique and creative ideas that we all have in our heads needs to be thrown away. When I was younger, in primary school, I adored playtime with my friends. Academia was never my strong point, and lessons often went straight over my head. I was never dumb, but for me, the true fun of school was the limitless scope of the playground. One day, I'd be a secret agent sneaking around a hidden base. The next, I'd be a rally car driver chasing after first place, a hacker surfing through cyberspace, a soldier defending an ammunition case. Fantastical adventures were commonplace. Me and a friend face to face, him an angel, me a demon battling for dominance of the human race, playing out of sight of the cool kids, just in case they were watching and thought I was uncool. I said it didn't bother me what people thought. It did, but I had a great poker face. Then, high school happened. Complete change of pace. Suddenly, playtime was a thing of the past. Shame, but I knew deep down that good things wouldn't last. So you conform to what's expected of you. Show up on time. Tuck your shirt in. Be polite. I was nothing special in high school because my outlet, that endless, vast imagination that I'd existed in, was suddenly no more. The world I had come to adore was gone. And I think it was around this time that some disillusions began to grow, to creep into my mind and to take root, a horrible seed of doubt, enhancing all the worries and pushing the creativity out, making me question, am I good enough to do anything? After high school, I had a strange thought, sometimes still do. I thought everyone in a position of power must know what they're doing, right? A politician got there because of his smart policy making. A famous artist must have some groundbreaking undertaking they'd been painstakingly researching, taking skill and education and years of focus. I thought everyone who speaks on a subject is surely an expert, a pro, years of experience, and even if I were to have a go at doing what they do, I'd be so vastly inferior to their spectacularly superior ability, there'd be no possibility of me producing anything even close to what they could do. It was complete juvenility on my part to expect comparability between my passionate but ultimately weak skills to their respectability in a field that they'd obviously been chosen for. It took me far longer than I'd like to admit before I came to the startling realization that most of the population, and while this is definitely a generalization, I don't think it's any less true, that no one really knows what they're doing. I felt that while I had passion and drive, I didn't have the technical skills in my mind, the important bits needed within me to turn any of my ideas into anything the world would want to see, that my limit was now and always to be a guy who thought about creating but just sat waiting to watch another, someone far better, become the pace setter. This video is about realizing that I was wrong. When I was 10 years old, I started writing a fantasy book. Nothing groundbreaking, the standard fare of dragons and war, wizards and kings battling over things I'm sure were important for a time, and eventually a plucky young hero, Mary Sue before I even knew the term, wound up thrown into the middle of this chaotic and, for a 10-year-old, despotic battle. That book sat on floppy disk for years, really showing my age with that reference to my data storage preference. And now I look around my room and I realize if that book went to some weird purgatory doom dimension populated entirely by projects I've left unfinished, maybe I need to find my creativity and make amends, because that book idea definitely has a few friends. The Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I wrote Once, I'd be proud to sit here and gloat about the amount of work this took to emote to you an anecdote or two, from the saga of the daring crew, from the inception of the boat deception to the showdown with the dragon, a path that, if we were to go down, would only serve to remind me that this story remains unfinished. There are other projects sat around my room. Grim reminders of those short but intense bursts of creativity that scream in their proclivity that I've finally found the activity that can be a funnel for productivity. Finally, the passivity of existence is quenched, and I can paint little boxes into treasure chests, or I can work on a cosplay from that show I love. I can learn to sew, so I can ultimately go to a convention and show off the finished invention that's unique to me because I made it. But they remain unfinished. So I decided to read some advice online. How do people with ideas live? How do they work? Surely they're just flesh and blood, like me. Maybe I could, if I focus some energy, exist the same way and capture day to day the thoughts and ideas that fleetingly appear and maybe finally turn the random sparks of insanity into something tangible. Something real. So I record everything on my phone. Filled up the notepad with musings and short ramblings, little ideas that popped into my head whenever I said maybe if I follow where the idea led would reward me with something worthwhile, something with artistic style. And the best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas, so I made sure to record because if I was ever bored I could read and imagine these ideas of mine being made sometime. The lists on my phone, my ideas, homegrown, endlessly postponed. And despite time alone, time enough to focus on my own and maybe make these ideas something real, they remain unfinished. After years of life moulding me into who I am today, we arrive here, me in front of a camera and writing and rewriting the words I'm hoping that convey on some level the creative roadblocks I felt are in my own mind. The constant doubt that anything I make wouldn't be worth the time it would take to watch or experience because others better than me are already out there making things you want to see. More. And my own experience, despite being infinitely different to yours, is worth less. I've been lucky enough to go to university. And while I was hoping for a hotbed of creativity, I found an altogether more useful epiphany. One day, while I was staring at a blank piece of paper, knowing that I was meant to be filling it with witty jokes, anecdotes and situations, hilarious machinations, my mind simply started to steal. A funny gag I'd seen on telly, the kind I needed a hearty belly laugh, well written and tight. I'd just stay up all night and steal until the morning light shone on my expertly stolen plate. I wasn't happy with that idea. Taking the humour from others wasn't why I was here, so I needed to clear my head and instead create something the world hadn't seen before. So the paper remained unfinished. It was then I realised, like so many other projects before, I finally knew the score. I finally saw the reasons my ideas never left my mind, and in a way the revelation was kind. It hurt to realise, but knowing is half the battle, and suddenly the invisible power that had for one reason or another prevented the creation of my artistic inspiration was painfully obvious. I never made anything because deep down I was convinced everyone else was able to do it better. Why would you watch my film when that one is out? Why would the travelling talent scout pick out my acting from the crowd when others had clearly allowed themselves to be better than me, and my performance in any artistic test was mediocre at best? Everything I was trying to make already existed and was already better by a long shot. Anything I made would be destined to be forgot. And why on earth would anyone do something so regrettable as making something destined to be forgettable? So my attempt would be full of passion and desire, but in my mind I knew if I did see any project through, the harsh waters of reality would quench my artistic fire with dullness and banality, leaving the audience unlucky enough to experience my artistic stuff, thinking I'm a hack and wanting their time back. In a final defeated moment, I gathered my strength, threw away pride, lost all the cockiness in my stride as I knocked sheepishly on the door of my tutor, Raji James. I asked him, simply and directly, fed up with mind games and determined to make a change, how do I be original? He smiled. An artist and actor that I adore. Likely been asked that question before, by years of students, like me, all walking head bowed through the door and hoping for a long and complex revelation to help alleviate the subjugation we all felt under the invisible weight of comparison to others better than we could ever hope to be. He looked at me and he said, "Tell the truth." It took me years to realize the full extent of what he really meant. And each email sent asking for some kind of clarification was met with the same reply of, "Tell the truth." And now I realize. And the moment I finally opened my eyes to the reality of the creative world, I smiled too. There will always be others who make films or who write, others who can paint or draw, artists who delight with creations and worlds so vivid and memorable you can get lost in them, geniuses with brush and pen who open portals to other worlds and places, friendly faces, artists who make and do far better than you. But they aren't you, and never will be. And that is your greatest strength. My life, up to now, is an adventure only I can ever have. And yours is a journey that only you have ever taken, now or ever will take. And no one can fake the experiences that make you, the way you are. So when you want to create something, tell the truth from your heart, from your life, your trouble and strife, pain and joy, man or boy, woman or girl. Take the truth of your life and unfurl your story, because the only original thing you can give this world, irrespective of the conscious collective, is the truth from your perspective. You might not paint like the old masters or sing like a Broadway actor, but don't try to. Because "I see trees are green, red roses too" would get laughed off the X Factor. But it's true to Louis Armstrong. And his truth wasn't wrong. So when you're feeling you haven't got the skills, just tell the truth. I tried for many years to work out what the world wanted from an artist. What does the world need from me? And it's a constantly changing uncertainty, a moving target where the goalposts are always in flux, changing and moving, swilled like the wild and wasteful ocean, impossible to hit and keep. And if it's impossible perfection you seek, this attitude causes most strong and meek to give up and go home. So I started getting out of bed and asking, what truth from my head can I give the world instead? My writing isn't the best. Some of the verses need to be tweaked. And locally, the friends I've met, the creative network of people and artists whose interest I've piqued, I know won't get me backstage of any Hollywood show. But my writing is mine. It's my truth. My stories for now remain unfinished. My costumes may be missing parts. And in the future, scholars of the arts may never mention my name. And just the same, no one will play my board game. I might die never finding fame, never make an important contribution to the world, despite having hurled all my creative power at my project, stayed up till some ungodly hour trying my hardest, it won't matter. Because all of us have unfinished projects we're avoiding because of the fear of comparison to others. Forces us to smother our dreams, and while they silently scream beneath a blanket of self-doubt, and in a horrible roundabout way, some people think it's better to make nothing than make a failure. But if you tell the truth, you won't fail. Your ego may be frail, and even thinking about releasing your artwork under the harsh critic of the world turns your skin pale, because the act of creating does indeed entail allowing the cruel world to look at your art and judge. But don't let that stop you, because everyone feels the same fear, that they're not good enough to hear, and everyone thinks the same thing, that everyone else has some hidden power, some secret to success they're keeping shut away from view, that if only you knew, you'd suddenly be able to do all the wild and outlandish things that have for so long lived in your dreams. If you had the secret to unlock the mental block you've been stuck behind all those years, be it doubt or your fears, you'd finally be able to burst forth from your creative seams and show the world your artistic dreams. And the secret to alleviating this strife from your artistic life is stunningly simple to do. Tell the truth according to you. This is a video apology to all the things I haven't done because I was so focused on trying to be what I wasn't. And now I will return to my old projects. And despite the constant thought of comparisons, I'm going to trust my own creativity to bring me through. I'm going to finish my projects, and to myself alone and above all else, be true.